Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat sermon with guest speaker, Rabbi Noah Farkas.
Look, I brought notes, which is, for those who know, it's like a little rare for me to bring notes, but I brought notes, and I brought my Haggadah with me because it's Shabbat Hagadol. And Lily taught about the Torah portion. And so I figured I would teach a little bit about Pesach and the holiday that is to come. It's so great to be here, by the way. I love this shul. It's built so beautifully, and mazel tov to you, Rabbi Schatz, and to you, Rabbi Cantor Torney, and to Rabbi Kligfeld for building such a beautiful community. And to everyone here, friends, longtime friends who I've known since I was a teenager, friends who my wife has known since she was a teenager, and friends that we have made through the years. It's really great to be here. So in a few days, we're going to get together and celebrate the holiday of Passover. Now, I can already feel the blood pressure rising in some of you because you know of the cooking and the cleaning and the hosting, and all has to come. I understand that. By the way, it is the most celebrated holiday of the cycle of all of our holidays. More than Shabbat, more than lighting a menorah or a Chanukiah, Jews will go out of their way to celebrate Passover. In fact, we know of Passover Seders that took place at the base camp of Mount Everest. And when Jews have lived in the International Space Station, they smuggled matzah aboard so that they could celebrate Passover in the space station. We know through history, both in the forests and in the ghettos and in the tunnels under Gaza, Passover Seders still happen. So this year, as we gather together and we begin to ask the questions again, I want to ask this question. How does it feel to be a Jew today? How does it feel to be a Jew today? It is, in many ways, an opportunity to celebrate friends and family. But we know, especially over the last few years, that the feeling of how it is to be Jewish can be quite dark, almost cynical, with the rise of anti-Semitism, violent anti-Semitism, with this war, with encampments, with all sorts of things that have accosted us and our Jewish identity. We should ask this question of ourselves and actually of our children, just as our children should ask us, how does it feel to be a Jew today? Now, the Haggadah has two answers to that question. Two answers in the Maggid section that I want to highlight for you. Two stories of how you're supposed to feel being Jewish that are found in our Haggadah. The first is a paragraph at the end of the opening section of the Haggadah, and I'll just read it for you, translate it very quickly. It says, V'hi sha'amda avotenu v'lanu shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lekalotenu, adher shebechol dor vador omdim aleinu lekalotenu, v'kodesh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. That there is a promise that God has kept for us and for our ancestors and for us, but not just for us, that in every generation, every single one, there's been enemies who have risen against us to destroy us. And in every generation, they have stood upon us and to destroy us, and God has rescued us from them. This story we know. This story is repeated over and over again. And in every generation, every single one, there have been those who have saw us as the obstacle to the road to their freedom. And because we were the obstacles, they stood against us and tried to destroy us. We know this story. For Vespasian, we were the obstacle for his road to becoming the emperor. For Augustine and Origen, we were the obstacle on his road for bringing back Jesus as the Messiah. For Muhammad, we were the obstacle on his road for converting the world to Islam in every generation. For Luther, we were one of the obstacles that kept him from reforming the church. For the Calvinists and the humanists, we were the obstacle on the road to enlightenment. For Napoleon, our ethnicity, even though he emancipated us in 1815, our ethnicity was the obstacle on the road to nationalism, where you can be a Jew at home, but you had to be a Frenchman in the streets. And of course, with Hitler, we were the very obstacle to his road to world domination and perfection. In every generation, they look at us, they stand upon us, and we become the thing that prevents them from becoming free. The capitalists call us socialists and unionists. The socialists call us capitalists and colonizers. Whether it is in one generation to the next, in every generation, they stand over us and they try to destroy us. That is one answer to the question of how it feels to be a Jew. To be set upon, to be objectified, to be hated, to attempted to be destroyed, and in every generation we have overcome them, for there are no Romans, there is no Greeks, there are no Assyrians, but the Jewish people remain forever. That is a great story to tell. That is one answer to the question. But it's not the answer to the question. Because if our victory as a people is only in survival, we haven't achieved who we're supposed to be. So the Haggadah has a second story, using the same language. Right after Rabbi Gamliel tells us you only actually need to do 3 things for the Passover Seder and why the 3-hour storytelling is completely useless, where he says you just need to talk about matzah, moror, and the Passover, the zroah. So for all you kids or for anyone who's running the kitchen, you can just tell them to skip to the Rabbi Gamliel part and you've completed the Seder. Right after that, there's another paragraph. And it says, same language, B'chol dor vador. In every generation, Chayav Adam lirot etzmo ki'ilu hu yetza miMitzrayim. Shene'emar v'higadta levanecha bayom hahu lemor ba'avor zeh aseh Adonai li b'tzeiti miMitzrayim lo et avotenu bilvad ga'al kodesh baruch hu ela af otanu ga'ad imahem shene'emar v'otanu hotzi misham laman Heviotanu letet lanu et ha'eretz asher nishba la'avotenu. In every generation, each one of us is to see ourselves as if God brought us out from the land of Egypt, and then it quotes 2 pasukim, 2 sentences from the Torah. V'higadta levanecha bayom hahu lemor ba'avor zeh she'asa Adonai. You shall tell this to your children, and tell them that this is what God did for me in taking me out of Egypt. Not just our ancestors alone did God redeem us, Ella, ourselves, with them. As it says, V'otanu hotzi misham. To us, God brought us out from Egypt to give us this land, the land of Israel, as he has sworn to our fathers and forefathers. The second story, same language as the first. It uses the phrase B'chol dor vador, and it also says not only to our ancestors, but also to us. We are implicated, is a different story. Not a story predicated on the stories of our enemies. Not predicated on the story of survival, but on the story of our freedom. In this version of the story, we are no obstacle. We are the vehicle to freedom itself. And that when we see ourselves as part of the generation that left Egypt, we come to understand that our story cannot be written in negation of other people's stories. That our story begins with us. In fact, this paragraph brings two sentences, two pasukim from the Torah, where the other one has none. This is the story where we are commanded to tell our children. And so when we sit around our Passover tables and we think about how dark the world fears, how dark the world feels, and we think about what it means to live in every generation, the story we can tell is one of negation and of survival, or we can tell the story of Jewish joy, of the power of redemption itself, the power for families to come together and say, this is what God did for me. This is what God did for us. This is our story. And that the people who hate us will have their own story. And that story belongs outside this room. Because tonight, on the night of Passover, where we gather together as friends and family and we eat and we drink, this is the story we tell ourselves. A story of redemption. A story of slavery and freedom. A story of promise. A story of hope. A story of love. A story of joy. Now, there are a lot of people in this room who contribute to both of these stories in a very positive way. Those of us who fight every day against anti-Semitism, whether it's passing bills or working with law enforcement, every single day, there are warriors in this room who protect and fight for the Jewish people. But there are equal number of people in this room who live the second story. There are teachers, heads of school, principals, heads of camp in this room, whose core understanding of our Jewish story is the joy of being around a campfire, the joy of learning in a classroom, the joy of watching children play on the playground. Both stories matter. Both warriors and teachers are needed in our community. But the only story that is commanded to be taught through the Haggadah is the story of joy, is the story of excellence, the story of freedom and liberation. Now, Daniel and Joel, you're about to go through some very serious transitions as a family. Sadie, you're going to go off to college and I guess become president of the United States. And Lily, you're having your bat mitzvah, which means you're not yet the woman you are to become, but you are no longer the child that you were. Are you 12 or 13? 12. 13 next week. So I want you to think about this as a family. You have 5 more years before your home is empty. That's 5 more Seders, 5 more Rosh Hashanahs, 5 more birthdays, 5 more break fasts, 5 more. And you think to yourself, what is the story that we want to share with our children? Because in 5 years from now, they might come for Seder, but they won't be living in your house anymore. And they will be gathering at some point with friends at a table you didn't set, in a home you didn't build. And they will be asked, what was their childhood like? And we want them to answer that question with love and excitement and joy. And that our Seder table was filled with stories of our history, of our family, history of our people, but not written by the hands of our adversaries, written by our own hand. Because that's the greatest freedom that you can have. And so my blessing for you as a family as you enter this next final stage of having everyone home, that you share with them your dreams, your hopes, even your sorrows and your fears. But you write your family's Haggadah together, based in kindness and wellness and joy together. Together we say, Amen. Chag Sameach, everyone.
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, please visit www.tbala.org.